Okay, well, we are on. So let's see, like I say, hopefully a couple of folks will join us in just a second here. What I'll do is I'll send a quick message to everybody who had accepted, just to let them know that we've started. There we go. Yeah, because I know that Ishmael from Ghana was actually interested in joining us today, so I'm surprised he's not on yet.
I feel like there was 7 people who confirmed they're watching the call today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the message is out. Oh, my message was not shared. It's interesting. I wonder if folks are having a problem getting in because for some reason it's not letting me post a message to these folks. So have you spoken directly to any of the other volunteers there in Egypt?
I've spoken to 2 of them, but I don't think they heard from us from the Google community or from the Facebook page, because we still haven't actually gone and posted the Facebook page somewhere. But maybe they were, because one time I actually talked to 3 or 5 doctors about if you have any cases, so that you could send us them, because we're looking for a first recipient, so that we could confirm that going through the whole process of the hand is applicable and could be done before we start giving promises and saying, here we could do this, this, and that. And I think maybe these 2 volunteers heard from these doctors. They asked how could they help and stuff. And currently we're hoping to post this after the call today, which is just a Google form or something that said you could take what is it that you want to help with. Is it fabricating, or is it printing? Is it assembling? Or do you want to have a role in everything? So we're trying to, or it could be a doodle. We're still debating this right now. And we thought of having this as a pinned post on our Facebook page, or the possibility of having a small website, but we're not sure how easy is it to have a website. So that we, because we were wondering if we could have emails at e-NABLE Egypt, so that it would just look more professional to whoever is dealing with us. Because almost, I'm not sure how people do it in Hungary, but I feel people in Egypt, they always suspect is this a professional thing I'm gonna be dealing with these people, or is it someone who's going to just waste my time saying I'm gonna give you a hand and not? So
well, we kind of do multiple things. I mean, we do have a website. We do have a chapter, but and it's enable.hu.
Yeah.
But I don't think we drive a lot of traffic through that. I mean, I use that email address quite a bit, but in Ghana, for example, we just set up enableinghana@gmail.com. And it's kind of a distribution list. So, Ishmael and I both get that email, and then we can both kind of read the emails and help each other out. So I've seen it go both ways. The French chapter, they definitely have their own website. They even have a full-on website where you can go and register and log in and see the request that you've made for a hand, and they're kind of building their own internal matching system. obviously a big country, lots of recipients, lots of volunteers. I think he's got over 200 volunteers there. So he needed a kind of a big system in order to try and manage all of that. We're much smaller here in Hungary. We can kind of manage things a little bit, more simply. One thing to consider is looking into Google Forms. So if you want, for example, the ability for volunteers to sign up and tell you what they want to be able to help with, and maybe you even want a local language version of a form that says, hey, if you need a hand, tell us where you live, what languages you speak, how old is the recipient, what's your email address, right? Just some basic information. You can use Google Forms, and then you don't have to have an entire website that you're hosting and paying for, but you can just put your URL maybe in your Facebook page so that when people go to Facebook, they see, oh, if I want to sign up, I go fill out this form. And then you can use some pretty cool tools like Zapier or some of these other ones. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but you can set them up. So for example, every time you get somebody who, every time you get somebody who fills out the form, not only can it email you, but it can also say like, send an email directly back to them with maybe like an FAQ. So you never really have to get involved. They fill out the form. You get an email saying, hey, this person filled out a form. They get an email back saying, hey, welcome to Enable Egypt. By the way, here's a bunch of local language resources, FAQs, things like that. The next step is we're going to contact you. And then in the back, you can kind of have whatever mechanism you want for assigning out those cases, right? Or having people sign up for those cases. So 5 new cases come because they come through the form, they fill out the form. Then you guys can decide, right? Do they all go to the head of family coordination? Do they go into some pool and then all the different fabricators can choose to take on some of those cases? But that's up to you guys how you want to handle requests.
So what's the name of that?
Kind of a low. I'll post it in the comments. But basically, it's just there's really 2 things that I mostly use. I'll put it in chat. Google Forms, which, I mean, literally, if you just search on Google Forms, you can go in, you can create your own forms with multiple options and all this kind of stuff, and then just post it up. So that's what we have in Hungary, is we have a form. The first question is, do you need help or do you want to help, right? And then if you need help, it asks you a different set of questions. If you say that you want to help, then it asks you a different set of questions. But they're all sort of linked together so that when somebody finishes the form, we kind of get an email saying, oh, John said that he wants to help out with fabricating and translation. And then now I know that I've got somebody that I can go to for those kinds of things. And the other tool, it's kind of like a middleware tool, this Zapier tool. And basically you just go in and you kind of connect it to, say, your Google Forms account, and then you connect it to, Gmail, or you can connect it to, there's hundreds of tools you can connect it to. We connect it to Trello, so that if somebody comes in and says that they want a hand, then we automatically create a card within Trello that has all of their contact information and everything. And that Trello board is only visible to people who have access to private, information. So they've been vetted by us, they've been approved by us. We know they're a chapter member in good standing. We can trust them. And so they even will get a notification saying, hey, a new person has filled out the form. There's a card sitting in Trello. If you want to sign up for this case, just take the Trello card and kind of move it into in progress. And now everybody else in the chapter knows that Janos or Attila or whoever has started working on that case.
Yeah.
So that's, like I say, that's kind of a low budget way of doing it, because then you don't have to have your own domain, you don't have to have your own website, you don't have to have people actually developing. But you may find that you get enough volunteers that are interested in helping out with development that, maybe you just say, hey, great, go build a website and a new system for us, and all the forms and everything that we need.
Yeah. Also, I'm wondering, how many number of volunteers are we going to get? Because up to now, just we're a team of, I think, 10 or 11.
And where are all those from? Those are from the university?
Yeah, they're all from the same university, American University in Cairo.
Okay.
And then when I talked with I don't know if you remember him, Muhammad Awad, the one who's a doctor at the other university.
Right.
He said he has like 10 students who are interested.
Okay.
So
That's a good start.
yeah, so if we're going to like be dealing with numbers like this, I think we might actually like have many volunteers, but I'm not really sure. Like, who knows how committed everyone would be? Maybe you could end up just working with 10 or 20.
Yeah, and I think it's the same at every level, right? So if you look at the overall e-NABLE community, there's 8,000-9,000 people in that Google Plus community. If you look at France, you know, there's over 200. If you look at Hungary, you know, there's 30 or 40. But within that group, there's always going to be a smaller group that is really passionate, you know, like they really want to be involved, and they're always available to help out. They'll spend nights and weekends. They'll do whatever they need to do in order to make sure that the work is getting done. And I think that's true at every level, right? So of those 9,000 people in the e-NABLE community, you know, my gut tells me that maybe there's 500 people that are really active on a regular basis, that are really doing the work every day. I think a lot of the rest of the folks, you know, if somebody asks them for help, they'll offer it. If they see something intriguing or really interesting that's related to the work that they're doing, then maybe they'll get involved at that level. But they're not necessarily out there, you know, recruiting new families, trying to look for new volunteers, you know, building out forms and websites and doing all of those kinds of things. Yeah. So yeah, you might find that, you know, you start out with 50 really interested people. They come to learn that it's not an easy thing to do, right? Like the printing is kind of challenging and the assembling is kind of challenging, and, you know, working with these families can sometimes be kind of challenging. And, you know, I think that some people, when they see how much effort is involved in really doing the work, it scares some people away, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, in that spirit, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, I discovered that like the prices we thought we would be dealing with, suddenly they all went up. I'm not sure if that's because of like how the economy is going in Egypt lately, like because the dollar went from like being 8 Egyptian pounds to like 11 or something in the past few months.
Wow.
But I'm not sure if so that could just like limit the number of people we could be helping at a time, but I'm not sure. I hope it's not going to be a big problem. Like you know, like a small keychain or something would cost us like 300 pounds at some Fab Labs. We're trying to talk to some of them if they could act like a sponsor to us, not in the meaning itself, but like giving us like a special price or something, and in return we'd have like saying we were helped by this Fab Lab, or like it sponsors us or something like that, just as an advertisement or something. They could see that as like a good chance for them.
You know, I'm going to send you, if you're interested in that approach, and I think it's a great approach, but if you're interested in that approach, there's one team in particular that I think has done a really, really exceptional job of it. It's the UK team. It's the guys who invented the unlimited arm. Their name's Stephen and Drew. And I mention them because they do exactly this. If you go and look at some of their videos on their website, they actually integrate their sponsorships into their videos. And they do really nice published, you know, videos. So they'll take pictures and video of them delivering the hands, of them building the hands. But then what they've also started doing is they'll even go out to toy stores. So let's say a child is interested in an Iron Man hand. They'll actually go out to a toy store and get a toy store to donate a whole bunch of Iron Man toys. And then when they deliver the hand, they also give the child a bunch of toys to make it an extra special event. And then in their video, they'll even say special thanks to, you know, da 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 da. And that's really allowed them to not only create a really special event, you know, for their recipients, but it also has allowed them to get more attention at, say, the national level. So like Stephen has actually gotten national awards for the work that they've done there. And part of that is because they do such an amazing job of advertising it, you know what I mean? So that could even be one of the roles in your team. If you have somebody who's really good at video editing or design work or something like that, maybe that's the person who puts together all of your, you know, really beautiful videos and things like that. And you could use that in order to drive sponsorship, so that Fab Labs and things would be really interested in working with you because they see that they get free advertising. Like Stephen and Drew's video, actually, it was only a brief period, but part of their video actually made it into Google's year in review. So now they can go out to their sponsors and say, hey, look, you know, a billion people watched this video and saw the work that we're doing. So, you know, us saying sponsored by Fab Lab XYZ is going to get you a lot of free advertising. So you want to work with us.
So concerning the videos, we have like a girl on our team, which she's like really good with those, you know, the white animation board videos, like the ones that like explain something or stuff on the.
Yeah, like all those.
We had like
starter videos and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like we have like a 2-minute video right now, just that like explains what e-NABLE is.
Oh, wow.
But it's not like fully done yet. And we're thinking of waiting before we post it, because we thought of having like a short movie with our first recipient, which could have like a better effect with people. So yeah, but we're definitely going to have a video, because I think that would really help us, and especially like the way like social media is, like, I think the best way to advertise something in Egypt right now, because actually not in Egypt, like in the whole world, Facebook is a big thing. Yeah, so.
Yeah, those little autoplay videos that come up on Facebook showing a little kid using a hand. I mean, we don't have that skill, unfortunately, here in Hungary. I mean, we kind of do, but it's only one person. And anyway, so we haven't done an excellent job of that. We've gotten on the news, we've gotten on TV, we've gotten a lot of free press, but nothing, we don't create those ourselves. It's, you know, some journalist or somebody who creates the video, and then we kind of cross-post it. But we're not doing what the team, you know, that UK team is doing. And I kind of wish we did. I think we could get some more attention, but again, I don't speak Hungarian, so I can't really do too much other than kind of work alongside them to help out.
I think like having like students, not even without being an ECF, just having students from different majors is really helping. Because like she's like a mass comm major, so they have to like deal with these kind of videos and stuff. So like I was actually thinking like, what other majors like in this school, because apparently most of the students would like to help. What other skills like the students would have that we could use?
You know, one skill that is really, really helpful is somebody who's good at modeling. So maybe somebody in like mechanical engineering, you know, one of your programs where they do CAD design.
Yeah.
Having somebody who
like the solid.
Go ahead. What was that?
Yeah. So like half of the team right now is mechanical engineering and construction engineering.
Okay. So if you've got that, then
Sorry.
you know, what you guys might even find, for example, and this is what happened here in Hungary, right? Is, you know, we have some new recipients coming in. We've got 2 that we're working on right now, but for a while, for maybe a month or 2, there'll be almost nobody new coming in. And then maybe we'll get a TV interview, and then we'll get some more people. But there's always sort of these ups and downs. And so during those down periods, that's where we do things like this, where we try and help other chapters get started and try and help out on other special projects. You might find that if you've got tons of designers who are great at using like Blender or Fusion 360 or Autodesk tools or whatever it is, you know, you may find that you can actually really help the community by offering those services to other groups. So even if, yeah, I mean, even if you have 10 people who are waiting for hands in Egypt, if all 10 of them just need the standard hand and you don't have to do any design work on them, then you might have a couple of people who want to help out with design work, but there's really nothing in Egypt for them to work on. So you can always go out, reach out to me, reach out to the guys in Nigeria or Ghana or Vietnam, those folks are always looking for some kind of special device. And I'm always getting emails from people with really unusual sort of issues, right? I got one from somebody yesterday whose hand was kind of permanently locked in this position, but they have a whole hand. And they're wondering, can we do anything? And my answer is, no, I don't have a clue what I could do for you. But a bunch of mechanical engineers, they might look at that and be like, oh yeah, no, we can totally help out with that. Let's work on a special project. So that's one option you could do.
I feel like that would be a great thing to do. Because like,
Okay.
like you could just send designs on email or something. So
yeah, and I'll tell you, within the Google Plus community of those 9,000 some odd people, I would say there's maybe 20 or 30 who are willing and able to do the modeling. Some people are very willing, but they're kind of like, oh, I only know how to do a few things. I can't really do anything, you know, too advanced. And there's some people who are really, really good at it, but they're constantly being asked to help out, so it's hard to get their time. So if you've got those skills, that's a really valuable skill that you could be, you know, potentially offering to the rest of the group if you're looking for those kinds of special projects, you know.
I think someone who could be of like really great help with this is the assistant professor Muhammad Awad from the Ain Shams University. Because the first thing he said in his email is that he wants to help in design. So, and he's doing a PhD in like lower limb. I'm not sure what, I can't recall exactly what his PhD was about, but I think he would be of great help with this. So we should send him an email about this after we're done.
Well, so maybe let's take a minute and talk about that, right? So we don't have everybody here. That's okay. We can still kind of sort some things out for ourselves. And I definitely want to talk a little bit about this e-NABLE outreach group. It's kind of a new group, but it's the group that I think might be able to help out with getting printers and supplies donated.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to just make sure that you're aware that that group exists, and we can talk a little bit about what they might be able to offer. But beyond that, you know, one of the things I was hoping to have happen today is to get to a point where you feel comfortable and confident, you know, publishing the Facebook page, talking about how things are going to be organized, you know, who they should contact and what email they should use, or if they should go to the Facebook page if they want to offer help, right? So I'm kind of curious, how far away do you think that you are with being ready to sort of go out there and say, we're e-NABLE Egypt, here's how you get in touch with us, here's the, you know, different roles that we think we want to fill, you know, that kind of a communication piece.
So we were planning on posting everything today after the call.
Okay,
even
great.
if like we still don't have a first recipient, but we thought like we're so passionate about this right now that we know if we get a first recipient, we're going to like go over the cost we think we should always have for a hand, just to make the first hand successful anyways. But we're still debating whether we should just be talking to volunteers right now, and even if we post the Facebook page, and even if we start giving out contacts and stuff like that, should we actually start approaching recipients on social media, or just stick with the way we're using right now, which is just talking to doctors, talking to other like charity organizations, because we know some of them are helping with limb loss and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was hoping to discuss that today with everyone. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's a right answer to that, personally.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. I'm gonna post a new link. I'm afraid people are trying to join and they can't get in. All right, let's see whether or not that helps. Yeah, because Ishmael said he's trying to join, but he keeps getting kicked out. All right, let's see if that helps at all. So, I don't think there's one right answer. What I would say is that it's kind of a balancing act, right? So, and we may have even talked about this, right? If you have a whole bunch of volunteers, but you don't have anything for them to work on, then they all kind of just drift away, right? They look for something else to do. If you have a whole bunch of people waiting on a wait list for months and months because you don't have any volunteers, then they're going to kind of drift away, and kids grow, and all of a sudden their measurements need to be redone, and you're never really delivering anything. So you kind of want to balance the two things, and never let one get too far ahead of the other. Right now, you seem to have some excited volunteers. So if I were in that situation, I would emphasize trying to find some recipients.
Yeah.
Ideal situation is you find recipients in Egypt. That would be perfect. Next best might be to find a recipient in your region, whether it be Sudan or, I don't know what other areas or what other countries you might feel comfortable working with, but you could do that. Maybe even Ghana, right? So you can kind of extend further and further out of Egypt, and you won't have to go very far before you find somebody who needs help. Right? Ishmael, for example, who's just joined us, he's got plenty of people waiting for arms. Do you want to help somebody in Ghana? Would you rather just keep trying to find somebody in Egypt? So I would say, yeah, put it out there on Facebook. Try and get some local press and media. And if you find that you're getting hundreds of people contacting you asking for hands and arms, then you know that you can kind of slow down, right? And give yourself time to try and deliver some of those hands and arms with the volunteers that you have, and then go back to trying to find more volunteers, right? So it's always this kind of constant balance of trying to find the people on both sides, the recipients and volunteers. Hey, Ishmael, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, I'm sorry. I don't know, man. This Google Hangouts thing, it's like sometimes I wonder if it intentionally messes things up.
I know.
Anyway. So welcome, and Omar, please meet Ishmael. Ishmael is in Accra, Ghana, and Omar is in Cairo.
Hi, Omar. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
We're well.
So.
Sorry, I can't do a video. My camera is messed up, so all you see is my face.
No problem.
Okay.
And just so you know, Omar, Ishmael actually is relatively new leader there in Ghana, and I've been working with him trying to get the new chapter started. So he was a great example where he was passionate and excited and wanted to get involved, and then we kind of went out there, worked with him. Talked about all these same questions that you have, and then eventually managed to get a printer donated, and some supplies, some filament and stuff like that. So he's just kind of a great example of, sort of a path that we might be able to take with the new Egypt chapter as well.
So yeah, I was wondering, how did you guys go through the process of finding your first recipient? Is it were you going to hospitals, or was there something else you were doing?
Ishmael, I think that was for you.
All right, Omar. Yeah. What we did was that we organized a workshop. Well, our first recipient was actually someone from the family. So we used that to get Joe's attention, and he was happy to print a hand for her in Budapest and bring it along. But when Joe came to Ghana, what we did was that we ran a workshop, and with a little advertising on the radio, we got more than we expected. We we got more recipients than we thought we could ever get. So that was how we got our recipients.
And when you got when you went really public on the radio and stuff like that, Was there a problem getting too much recipients at the beginning, or like
Yes,
is it an easy to handle?
well, the radio wasn't intended to happen. Like the radio advertising wasn't intended. It was kind of something that it was a mistake, but it actually helped us get a lot of information out there. So we were actually overwhelmed by the numbers that came. I think Joe, we were expecting about 5 or 10, and we got about 40 people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and a lot of those did come through kind of collaboration with another existing agency, another existing nonprofit that was there. At least I think some of those people came through Catherine. Is that right?
Yes, they did.
So, I mean, that's one area where, you know, what you can do, Omar, is you can go out there and do your research, right? You can find 5 or 10 nonprofit groups, you know, 2 or 3 government agencies, 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals or other clinics that work with these populations, and you can kind of just keep them on the side, right? And then when you're looking for new recipients, maybe reach out to 1 or 2 of them and say, hey, you know, we have the ability to deliver these hands. Here's an example of a hand. You can see that we can really do it. We're ready to take on recipients. Do you have anybody that you think we could, you know, help out? And then maybe they send you 2, 3, 4. You work with them. Then maybe reach out to some more organizations. So you don't have to like go out and blast everybody at once. You can kind of just work it at the pace that you're comfortable with, you know.
Yeah. So
But those kinds of
as you
organizations.
said,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's like you said, this might have like people waiting for arms
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
So I'm a bit afraid if that like happens. How are you dealing with it right now? If you have like so many people waiting for arms and not enough volunteers or not enough resources to like be helping them right now, do you just say
I
like
think,
you're on a test or something?
well, as we speak now, I'm getting a call coming through from one of them. So yes, I do get calls, and the pressure is on. But what we made them understand is that these things take a while to do. Come on, stop
Yeah.
calling. These things take a while to do. These things take a while to do. It's not an easy process. So we kind of don't raise the expectations too much, and we do as we can. What we are planning now is that with the help of Joe, we are trying to do a printathon, like get a lot of people in the e-NABLE community to print to help us meet the need, if you
Yeah.
know what I mean. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna be just I'm struggling to get volunteers because nobody wants to help. Well, people want to help, but that not the kind of numbers that I expected. But I throw the challenge out there on the e-NABLE community, and people do help. Like people print and help.
Yeah, I mean, I just posted a link to the printathon board, and right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recipients who have been sort of claimed by the rest of the e-NABLE community. So that's, you know, what I've tried to create is like what I would call blow-off valves, right, or sort of like balancing things, so that if you do get too far ahead, like we did in Ghana, where, I mean, as soon as we said that we were there to help, like there was people saying, please help, right? And there's really no way to avoid that, you know? I mean, as soon as people know that you're there, then they're going to start asking for help. The only thing you may not know ahead of time is how many. And if it's too many people, then that's what we have the whole community for, right? I mean, that was kind of the idea from the very beginning, was that with 9,000 people, theoretically, we should be able to get 20 devices put together. Now, at the same time, we also got the printer and supplies donated for Ghana so that they can start printing their own. Now, at some point, let's say that we can deliver these first 20, then maybe Ishmael is only getting 1 or 2 requests per month, and with his own printer, he might be able to keep up with that, right? And with maybe some other volunteers in Ghana, he would be able to keep up with that. So it might be that he just needs help at the beginning, and then his group can kind of take over from there. So if the same thing happened in Egypt, then, you know, we could also post up some of these cases and say, hey, you know, our new chapter suddenly has 30 people that are asking for devices. We need to get, you know, 20 devices printed and sent over to Egypt, and then people will pitch in. Now, I think, speaking personally, I'm not going to call it a mistake, but one of the things that we've learned in Ghana is that the people were very attracted to the Flexi arm, which is the most complicated device for us to print. And so now even the people who are signing up on the print-a-thon, even they are having a little bit of difficulty actually printing and making the Flexi arm. So there may come a point where we just have to kind of decide, like, look, even though it's not exactly what they want, maybe what we have to do is just ask for unlimited arms. They're much easier to print. We can print them in more volume. We can get those sent over. And then, you know, at least everybody has a device. And then if we want to follow up and actually make these Flexi arms, then at least we've kind of bought ourselves some time until, you know, until we get it to them. So it really just depends on what the circumstance is there and how you want to handle it.
Yeah, and also, like you said, you had a printer donated in Ghana. So, like, what kind of printer do you guys like go for? Because, like, since we're going to be dealing with 3D hubs mainly in Egypt at the beginning, every hub like has a different printer. I'm not sure if that should be something I take in consideration, because like mainly all of them print in PLA, which is what we're going to be using. But like, should I be in favor of some model or some printer over the other?
No, I mean, not if it's a fab lab that's printing it. If it's a fab lab, you can give them specifications. You can say, you know, we need this printed at 0.2 millimeter layer height. We need 3 or more shells. We need 3 or more top and bottom layers, right? So you can specify those types of things, and then let them worry about how to get that printed. And most any printer out there will print to those specifications. That's not like real high end. So chances are, if you just give them those specifications, they'll be able to print it out just fine. The only time that I would worry about a specific model of printer is when you get to the point where you want to get one for the chapter or for yourself. So we kind of went through that whole process with Ishmael as well. I think we actually landed on a really good printer. But we're about to kind of find out, right? Because Ishmael needs a part for the printer now, and so we're going to find out, is that like a really hard part to find, and is it going to be really difficult to get to Ghana, or is it a really generic part that you can get from pretty much anywhere and send it over, you know, for $15 or $20 and everybody's happy? I think it's going to be the latter, because we specifically went with a pretty generic type of a printer that should be easy to get replacement parts for. That was kind of what we wanted. But, you know, in that spirit, just, you know, while we're on the topic, I'll mention that, you know, that printer that got donated to the Ghana chapter basically came through this group called e-NABLE Outreach. It's a registered nonprofit in the United States, sort of like the ECF, except that the specific mission of e-NABLE Outreach is to help out new and existing e-NABLE chapters. So with you guys being a new chapter, that falls squarely within their main mission, which is to go out, do fundraising in the United States, collect all this money, and then use it to help buy printers, filament, spare parts, things like that, cover shipping costs, things like that for our new chapters, and almost exclusively outside of the United States, right? I can't imagine that they're really going to do much in the United States. It's really to help, you know, these new chapters that have to deal with issues like shipping and where do we get filament in Africa and where do we get these things. So I think that you guys would be in a really good position to basically ask that group, e-NABLE Outreach, if they could, you know, basically do the same thing for you guys as they did for Ghana.
So, to like reach out for this group, should we have something already going on before we start asking for like help like that, or is it like, do they have some requirements before we start asking for help or something? Or?
No, nothing formal, right? Right now, there's no paperwork involved. I think what it really boils down to right now is trust and passion and commitment. So, you know, I think that group is looking for some signs, some kind of indication that there's really a group there that is going to do this work. They're really committed to doing the work, and if they spend this money and get a printer over there and get supplies over there, that the group is going to invest the time and energy necessary in order to make it work. So what they don't want to do is just be buying a printer for Omar to have at his house so that he can do whatever he wants. Obviously they want to know that that you're out there working with partners, you're finding recipients, you've got other volunteers who are passionate as well. Where you put the printer, who physically uses it, how many hands you print, those are all things that are not strictly regulated right now. So it's more just about kind of building some trust.
So yeah, so would you recommend like waiting till I have like first two recipients and then start like asking them for help so that that trust would be there before the?
6 of one, half dozen of the other. I think it's really up to you as to when you think that it makes sense to ask for help. My personal opinion is that if you guys have the number of volunteers that you're talking about, and you have access to a fab lab, because like in Ghana, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, Ishmael, but there's no fab labs in Accra.
No, there's not. You're right.
So in that case, it was sort of like, look, if we don't have a printer, we can keep having hands shipped from the United States, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is to have Ghanaians making hands for Ghanaians. So the only choice we really had was to get a printer over there so that Ishmael could start that work. In your case, I would say, hey, if you can find the first recipient, get a demo hand printed at one of these fab labs, get a first hand printed for one of these recipients, prove that you kind of know what you're doing and that you're willing to go through the effort in order to actually deliver the result that we want, right, which is getting a hand to a human being. I think at that point you would be in a perfect position to kind of say, hey, look, we're really doing this thing. We've got new volunteers coming in. We've got new recipients coming in, and the thing that we're lacking is the ability to print for ourselves because we just don't want to keep spending money at a fab lab.
Yeah. And I feel like also in a way we currently have the resources to be using fab labs, so it wouldn't be really fair asking them for help right now, unless like we need to lower the costs of printing hands in the future. And also like,
and you will.
I remember you said that
the fab labs will get expensive, right? So I mean, even here in the United States, it's about $25. I'm sorry, not here in the United States. In the United States,
yeah, I was going to ask Umar how much it will cost him to get something printed.
So like in Egypt, we've been researching how fab labs because we've been calling them and they've been giving us prices, and because there are only like 30 of them, there's not a fixed price. Like one of them asks for a small keychain, as I was telling Joe, like for 350 Egyptian pounds.
That's
so
like
350 Egyptian pounds. That's like $30.
Okay.
And like another one is saying like per gram, I want just like it weights whatever it is that you printed, and a gram costs like $2. So like I say the hand would cost like 200 grams, and that's like 400 Egyptian pounds, because a gram is two Egyptian pounds. So like they're giving us like a big variety of prices, and I think we might end up dealing with that one that says a gram costs 2 Egyptian pounds. But as I said, like they don't have a fixed price because it's not like a fixed market already in Egypt, because all of them are just someone has his own fab lab or something, and they print for people, and they don't even have like websites or something. Just like it's almost like a store where you go print something.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever used 3dhubs.com.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm using. So
yeah, you're right. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
As far as the prices go. And so that's where I say, like, you may find that that's sustainable for a little while, But I mean, if you guys get 20 requests, I mean, where are you supposed to get that money from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and especially, you know, maybe the only way you could do it is to spread it out across all your volunteers. Because that's kind of the way that it works, right? Let's say here in Hungary we have 20 people with printers. If we have 20 new recipients, I can give one of those recipients to each of those 20 volunteers, and each one of them is donating their time and their filament, but it's pretty cheap for them to donate one hand worth of filament. But obviously, if I tried to give 20 cases to one person, even if they have their own printer, they're going to come back and say, Joe, I need a little bit of money for filament. That's going to like use all the filament that I have.
Yeah.
So, you know, you may be able to spread it out. You may be able to get some sponsorships from some fab labs, things like that to help with cost. But I think ultimately you are going to want your own printer, especially if you're dealing with university students. They would love to have a printer, I'm sure, at the university, right? So that they could go in, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning and, you know, print out a part of a hand or something.
So like having the printer at a student university without the ECF, is that like, I'm not sure, like, am I breaking some kind of agreement? It won't be an agreement because, like, I forgot to tell you. So I sent an email to Joe Fairley,
Mm-hmm.
but he never got back. So I'm not sure if I should consider that as maybe if we even submit the paperwork needed for the ECF, they wouldn't accept it. But I was wondering, like, if I actually like get a printer somewhere in a school, would that like be like a problem for the ECF? Like, would they mind doing something like that? Or is it?
You know, I wouldn't think so. I think that the way the ECF chapter model is structured is that they do, in fact, want you to be associated with some kind of university and get basically just some paperwork filled out by the university saying that it's okay for you to use them space to put it, you know, use their space to put in a printer, that you've been reviewed and approved by the university so that you're not just some group out there. But keep in mind that the ECF can't really do much, right? So in other words, they're not going to come back and tell you you're not allowed to call yourself an enabled chapter because you didn't fill out our paperwork, right? I don't think they're going to do those things. I don't know for sure, but I haven't heard anything like that. So I don't know that the ECF would be upset about it. I think that they might say, hey, you know, we see that you have a chapter there in Egypt and that you're working with the university. We would love for you to be an ECF chapter. You know, can you submit your paperwork? And then you might say, I submitted my paperwork. I haven't heard back from you. And then maybe, hopefully they would come back and say, oh, sorry for the mix-up. You know, you're approved. But at that point, I don't know what it means to be approved. I don't know. It's not like you get a badge. It's not like you get, you know, like you know, like some kind of certificate that gets you out of jail free or anything like that. It's just kind of, you know, thank you for participating. Now, what they might say is that if you wanted to contribute to the ECF, so let's say, for example, the ECF might sponsor a hand challenge or some kind of an event where they're trying to gather 1,000 hands or 500 hands or whatever. If you guys as a chapter wanted to send in 50 hands, that's where maybe the ECF would say, hey, I'm really sorry, we can only accept these 50 hands if you are an official ECF chapter.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But if you're never planning to do that, if you really just want to serve, you know, your local area, then it'll probably never even come up. I just don't know. I would suggest that you keep trying to get a hold of Joe Fairley in order to ask him some of those questions.
Yeah.
But I guess what I would say in summary is don't let it hold you up. Don't let it slow you down. There's lots of chapters and groups out there that are not part of the ECF, and there's never been any issues or concerns. They're doing great work in their local area. So yeah, I would say just forge ahead while still trying to contact the ECF.
Yeah. Also, what was it concerning? Also, like, I'm not sure if Ishmael can still hear us because he said something on the chat. So is that he could hear us loud and clear, or is that he can't hear us anymore?
You still with us, Ishmael?
I think there's a problem with the connection again. So like, well, should we wait, or is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes he see, he dropped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ghana doesn't have the greatest internet connectivity.
So does Egypt. Like, I'm surprised that the internet today is like not having any trouble.
Yeah, right. I
always the
mean,
case.
look, how lucky are we that we're in a world where Hungary and Egypt and Ghana can all talk together, and it pretty much works.
Yeah.
So what other questions do you have that we should talk about today? Do you feel comfortable and confident as far as how you want the group to be organized, you know, sort of publishing your message out there and sort of officially kicking things off?
So like, one thing that's also like making me hesitant is we don't have like I wouldn't say training, but like, should we just say like, you should get a raptor hand, or you should get a phoenix hand or something? What kind of model should we start with as a beginning? Is there something like for like newly started chapters to start with a certain model, or is it?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think the easy answer is to start with a Raptor Reloaded or a Phoenix hand.
Yeah.
Those two are probably the easiest to print. I think the Raptor Reloaded is actually easier than the Phoenix. So for, you know, we have this idea of a test hand or a demo hand, and it's really kind of like your first go at it, right? But if you're using a Fab Lab, you may not want to pay somebody to print a demo hand. You probably want them, like if you're spending money, you probably want it to be an actual hand. So if you can find that first recipient, and the first recipient has a pretty standard sort of birth defect, right, where it kind of looks like this, then the Raptor Reloaded is a perfect device for it. It's super easy. All you have to do is take some photos and some measurements, you know, and then take those STL files into the Fab Lab and say, I need this printed at 104%, 110%, whatever it is. They print it, you put it all together, and you've actually delivered something to a real human being. But in the process, you'll learn a lot, right? You'll learn about how it all goes together, how it's assembled, what parts you need, where are you going to buy the parts, what tools do you need, all that kind of stuff.
So I was asked, like, in our last meeting, I actually didn't know the answer for that. What kind of measurements should we be taking? Like, are there somewhere on the site what measurements is needed for each hand, or is it?
Well, I can send you, right now there's basically two approaches to measurements. So one is just what I would call sort of like a direct approach, right? Where you have them lay their hands out, right? You know, kind of like this. You're actually taking photos. You might even put a piece of grid paper down on the table so that you have, you know, and if the grid paper, you know, is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, then when you're going back later, you know that if the photo is zoomed in or the photo is zoomed out, that you can always kind of get it just right by getting it back to 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, right? And then you are actually taking literal measurements, right? So if this is on grid paper that's 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and I measure this, and this is 8 centimeters, then you know you've got 8 centimeters, right? And now you know that you need to make a hand that will fit an 8 centimeter wide hand.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of ways to do that, right? Through photos and measurements and tape measures and all of these different approaches. You can trace it on a piece of grid paper if you meet with them in person. Heck, we've even had people who just use tape, you know, like masking tape, and just cover the whole hand in a big, you know, ball of masking tape, and then cut it down the back, peel it off, and then send it to you, right? So there's lots of ways that you can do that, but we'll call that sort of like the direct approach, where you're actually trying to find out, this is 8 centimeters wide and I need to make a hand that will accommodate 8 centimeters. The other approach is what I'll call maybe, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it just the width of the hand that we're measuring? Nothing else?
Typically it's the width of the hand, and then the length from the wrist to the longest finger, right? So some people might have a little bit of a finger here, so you're always looking for the longest finger, right? So you would take sort of this measurement if they had a long finger there. And then the width of the hand is usually across the knuckles, so here. And then, of course, if they need an arm, then you need to also measure, you know, the distance to their elbow. So it would usually be, say, from this crease up to this wrist crease here, and then usually the circumference or the diameter of their arm here, and potentially their arm here, just so that you know how big that arm piece needs to be. So for a hand, 2 usually will suffice. And then for an arm, you need sort of like 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5.
Yeah.
And there's lots of tools out there for doing this. So, you know, the direct method where you're actually trying to figure out size, I can send you, I'll post it in chat. I've got a real simple guide that I've kind of put together from everybody's best wisdom that talks about how to take the photos and how to actually do the measurement, what tools to use and all that. So that's pretty straightforward. The other method being an indirect method, basically what you can do is go into a tool like Blender. I don't know if you're familiar with Blender.
Is that like the slicer program you were talking about, or is it?
No, it's a modeling tool. It's like a mesh modeling tool. So it's more like 3D design kind of a tool. But the reason I mention it is because Peter Binkley has actually put together a really good method where he has all the 3D models, right? All the mesh models for the Flexi hand, the Raptor Reloaded, the Phoenix, all these different hands he has inside Blender. And what you can do is you can load your picture into Blender, scale it so that you know that it's exactly 1-to-1. And then you can take the 3D model, say, of the Raptor Reloaded hand, and you can actually like overlay it on the picture. And then you just keep making the model bigger or smaller until it actually fits just right in Blender. And then that's when you stop and say, oh, okay, that seems to be the right size. But you can see that that's more of an indirect method because you're just kind of eyeballing it, right? You're just kind of making the model, the 3D model, bigger or smaller, but you're not necessarily making the model, you know, like 8 centimeters wide. You're just making it big enough.
Yeah.
And so I can send you just a quick document here that talks a little bit about that, because I don't think there's one way that is the best. In fact, a lot of times I will use 2 or 3 ways of doing the measurements and then just kind of test them against each other to make sure that I actually am getting the right measurement. Because you never really know. A lot of times the photos are taken, you know, maybe from a little bit of an angle. You know, maybe the camera was actually kind of skewed a little bit when they took the photo, so you get some kind of weird results. So sometimes, depending on what you have to work with, you might need to use multiple methods in order to make sure that you're really getting the right size. But that document that I just included on the side should give you, I'm pretty sure it covers at least the direct method of using photos and things like that. But hopefully I've also referenced Peter's method of using Blender as well. If I haven't, then I'll update the docs so that at least there's a sort of a reference to both techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll add a little reference at the bottom here for Blender technique. But just so that you have it, here is the original Google Plus link, because the original Google Plus link actually has like a video that goes along with it, and he kind of walks you through a multi-step process of how to take the pictures and how to open Blender and do all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good post. That is definitely one of the more challenging parts to it, though, Omar. So when you get there, don't hesitate to reach out. You know, if you've got a lot of 3D designers and modelers on your team, it may just be a natural to them. They just may understand it. They just may get it. Most people don't. Most people, they get to that point and they're like, okay, wait, I see this STL file for a palm and for a finger, but is it the right size? And that's kind of where they need help. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask for some help, and we can go through it. There we go.
Also, I wanted to ask about, like, if we found a face recipient, because I just got a text from a friend right now, which is funny. He said he might have found a potential face recipient, but he doesn't have an arm, like just an elbow.
What does that mean? So he does have an elbow, so like he has this, but it's maybe here?
Yeah, it's like he says it.
Oh, we lost him. You there, Ishmael?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, but I think we
I
lost
just joined
him.
you back. I got kicked off, and then I just got back.
Hopefully he'll rejoin us as well.
So I've missed a lot of the talk. So give me a summary, please.
You know, we've just been doing sort of Q&A. So you know, whether or not.
Oh, it's coming back.
Sorry, let me find my notes here. But we were just doing Q&A about how the different roles, you know, that people might take on within his chapter, whether or not he needs to. I guess he's submitted his ECF paperwork to become an official chapter, so he's wondering whether he needs to sort of wait about that.
Okay.
And then also talking just a little bit about sort of getting that first case and what design would be appropriate for the first case, which is kind of, you know, frankly, I think is kind of related to what's going on with you, right? In this email that I sent you about, are we going to stick with the flexi arm being really, really complicated, or should we kind of bite the bullet and make the decision that we're going to let people, or that we're just going to send over unlimited arms for now while we get you printed back up?
I was going to reply that because, well, I think if we can get the unlimited arm, and it's going to, because the people need it anyway, so if that's going to work, then why not? We can't wait for a fancy one when we can do one that actually works, and that's the job. So
yeah.
I was going to reply that, but I don't know. Things just keep skipping me these days. I don't know why.
Well, you know, message me. Welcome back, Omar. So Omar, we were just talking a little bit about the Ghana situation, because it's related to the question that you asked about what is the right first model. And so in your case, you know, Omar, you had asked what is the right model for us to print first, and my advice was Raptor Reloaded, because it's very simple and it works. In Ghana, I took a flexi hand over, and everybody was really excited about it. They really liked that flexi hand because it looks very natural. Yeah. So they all asked for that. The problem now that we're facing is we've got 20 people who need arms, and it's going to be really, 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 really difficult for us to print 20 flexi arms. They're just really difficult prints. So what Ishmael and I were just talking about is maybe going back and just saying, hey, look, you know, initially we're going to give you unlimited arms. They're not exactly what you asked for, but they still look good. They still work well. People can print a lot more of them. We'll get more people from the community who can help out with that, because it doesn't require any special techniques like the flexi arm does. And then, you know, once Ishmael is in full swing with his own printer and he's really, you know, burning these things out, then, you know, maybe we circle back and give them the full flexi. Yeah. But that's just kind of like my lesson learned from this experience in Ghana, is that maybe I shouldn't even have taken the flexi arm over there. Should have just been like, hey, look, what we can make is this unlimited arm. If you want one, you can have one. If you don't like it, then we just don't have anything to offer you right now, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that might, you know, you might run into a similar situation there in Egypt, where if you show them every single model that is available, you know, they might be excited by the most difficult one for you to make.
But like in a case like this, we're potentially, because I can't actually, like, I'm gonna have him to like send me a picture or something, but he says the person yet, because if we can't help with such like case, we wouldn't, like, it would be of no use to him. But
Right.
what I think I'm getting is that like a big part of the is there an easy model for a hand like this to start with, being a first recipient, or should we keep looking for now?
Like everything, it depends. There's no easy answer. And Ishmael, it could probably even share with you, like, until you get really into it, you don't even realize how everything depends. You know, you can say it, but it really does. So what I would say is definitely get the pictures. Definitely get the pictures and get an idea. So, you know, if they're an adult, they're going to require a much bigger device, which the unlimited arm doesn't really work very well for anybody that's, say, bigger than a 14, 15, 16-year-old person. Maybe 17. But as you get to be an adult and you've got a full-size arm, what winds up happening is that this length on a child is almost the same as this length. But on an adult, this gets much longer compared to your hand. And so the models don't start to fit. They stop fitting. They stop working as you get to be an adult. So, and the other thing to consider is how much of this part of their arm do they have. You know, I've seen instances where they have very, very little of it, and I've seen instances where they have had an amputation almost all the way at the wrist. And that will also influence which design you pick and how big you print it and all of that. So, yeah, get the photo. If you want to shoot it over to me, I can give you some feedback and some advice. The good news is that because you're using a Fab Lab, you won't have some of the normal issues, right? So on that unlimited arm, anything over 140, 145%, which an adult would need, this piece actually becomes so big that you can't print it on a normal size printer. So you need a pretty big printer like the one that we got for Ishmael in order to start printing those bigger pieces. You won't have to worry about that. You should be able to go to a Fab Lab and say, hey, yeah, I've got a pretty big piece. You guys have a pretty big printer, right? Like, print it out. You know, you charge me what you need to charge me, but at least you have a big enough printer to do it. So hopefully it would, you wouldn't have to deal with all of those issues. You'd just be able to take the measurements and send them the files.
And like concerning the specifications of printing itself, should it be up to the Fab Lab now, or is it still up to me? Like what percentage of?
I would set minimum standards. And again, it depends on the model as to what the minimum standards are. But a good rule of thumb, and I'll include these in my notes here on Google Docs. A good rule of thumb is 0.2 millimeter layer height. That's pretty much a standard. 3 or more shells, which is, you know, the walls that you print along the outside before you start filling in between. So you want 3 or more of those shells. You want 3 or more top and bottom layers, right? So you're going to print sort of 3 solid layers on the bottom, and then you'll do a whole bunch of layers, and then you'll do 3 or more solid layers on the top. And then the infill, usually about 40%. On some of the thermoformed pieces, you can go lower, as low as 20%. But you might only really want to do that if you're trying to save weight. So let's say it's a very small child who can't carry a very heavy device, and they're not going to be banging it as much, right? So if they're a small child, they're not as strong, so they're not going to be as hard on it. So you could probably go down to, say, 20%. It would still be a good, strong part. It'd be much lighter, and you'd save some money at the Fab Lab because it's less filament to use. But for like a teenage device or an adult device, I usually do 40%, at least in the hand and the fingers, because that's where most of the stress goes. And then for the other parts, you can still go as low as 20% and have them be strong enough. So if you give those minimum standards to the Fab Lab, then they should be able to stick with those. They may choose to do better. They may choose to do more shells. They may choose to do more infill, but hopefully not too crazy, right? Because if they decide to do like 80% infill, that means you're essentially getting like a solid part, right? Just like full solid, and that's heavy. So that's going to be like, what you don't want to start doing is making this hand that you just replaced heavier than this hand, because then they might start having shoulder problems or elbow problems. So as much as possible, you know, you kind of want to keep it light, you want to keep it easy, but just strong enough that it's not going to break as soon as they start using it.
So concerning the group chat, I can't find the links we had in the chat before. So is there someone else who could see them? Because
Yeah, I'll just copy them all. I tell you what, why don't I just copy everything from chat into the document?
Yeah.
Will that work into that Google Doc?
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
So.
Okay, there you go. So if you look in the doc now, it should be in there at the bottom.
Yeah, I can see it. So also concerning the, like, I remember you told me the Raptor Reloaded has like an adaptive grip that you could actually control fingers separately. But then one of the doctors I was talking to asked me like, how far could they control a finger? Like, is it just like a regular hand?
No.
Or is it? No.
No,
yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to mislead you. You still can't control individual fingers like this.
Yeah.
So basically, what the adaptive grip. So the normal grip, if you imagine, all 5 strings are attached to the same block back here, and so when you bend your wrist, all 5 fingers go like this, and they all work at the same speed. They all work exactly the same, right? So if you're grabbing something like this, and you're using the normal grip, then the first fingers that hit something like that, all of the fingers are going to stop because they're all connected. So this is kind of what you're going to get. Maybe something like this, right? The adaptive grip, what it allows is that when the first fingers hit something, it keeps going so that the other fingers keep closing until they're all in contact. And then when you let go, they're all going to do that, right? So it allows you to grab things that are unusual shape or size. But it's still all powered by the same wrist or by the same elbow. So it's not this, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not.
That would require electronics, servos, motors, sensors, things like that. So the adaptive grip is really just meant to make it a little bit easier for you to pick up weird shaped objects, whether it be a pencil or a cell phone or an odd shaped glass or something like that.
Which I think is like, that was the problem we were discussing concerning the Phoenix hand I have with me. That I feel like it's not easy to just grab every kind of
Do you have an adaptive grip on the Phoenix?
No, it doesn't have an adaptive grip.
Yeah,
and it's also like we were discussing having like the sticky tips on the fingers too. Yeah.
Yeah. That probably makes the biggest difference. You know, the adaptive grip helps, for sure, no question about it. But the thing that makes the most difference is getting something sticky on those fingers. So either those gel fingertips that you see on a lot of pictures, those things are like Spider-Man grip. And like you put those things on and you have a hard time letting go of something. Like you have to like pull it out, right? It's really sticky. But they look kind of strange, right? You can see them. So what we use as much as something called Plastidip, which is almost like a glue that comes in a can, and you just dip the fingers in it, and when it dries, it's still really, really sticky. Not as sticky as those gel tips, but sticky enough to be able to hold on to things really well, and it's clear so you don't see it really. So it looks a little bit better. but that's one more thing to buy, right? So, and if you can't find it, I'm guessing you can find it in Cairo. It's pretty popular.
Yes.
But it's just one more thing. So I would start by getting something sticky on those fingers. And I think once you have that, you'll find that that Phoenix can suddenly hold on to something pretty heavy and pretty easily. The adaptive grip is just like one step beyond that that says, okay, well, you know, if you're trying to grab on to something like this handle, which is really awkward, you know, the sticky fingers are only going to take you so far because they're going to do something kind of weird like this, right? Where you've only got 2 fingers on it, so no matter how sticky they are, it's going to fall. But the adaptive grip allows you to kind of do a little bit more, and so then you might get something more like this, right, where the sticky fingers would matter.
Yeah. And like, so another thing that I was thinking about is how far is it? Like, I remember when we were talking about like helping adults and children. So, is it sometimes adults because it's like there's more restrictions on what a hand could do for an adult, or is it just we could help as many adults as we can, or is it?
Totally up to you. Totally up to you.
Yeah.
I'll say again, you know, here our Hungary chapter, the culture here in Hungary is that they don't really want to make devices for adults. Culturally, there's a very strong notion here that the adults should be able to take care of themselves, and if they need a prosthetic hand, then they can pay for one. They can go out and buy one. And if they can't do that, then tough.
Yeah.
So they really want to just help children here. Me, like I don't get that. I don't have that. So when an adult comes to our group here, I usually will just take it as my own project on the side and just do it myself rather than doing it through the whole chapter. Totally up to you guys, right? In Ghana, it's a lot of adults, right? Because they have a lot of workplace accidents. So people are doing construction and they get a hand chopped off or they get, you know, damage to their arm. Like, why wouldn't we help those folks, right? Like, they need that help.
Yeah.
So it's totally up to you guys as to what you decide to do. You may find that some of your members specifically don't want to help adults. Great, then just don't sign up for those adult cases. And for those volunteers that would like to help adults, then great, you know, help them out.
So there aren't any like problems that you could face with hands for adults or anything. It's just a matter of size, and that's it, right?
Size is really the issue. You know, the Phoenix hand and the unlimited arm, and the unlimited arm uses the Phoenix hand, right? Those 2 devices, they struggle anywhere above 150%. So once you get, you know, once you take the measurements and you find that you need 155% Phoenix hand or 155% unlimited arm, it simply may not work. You know, at which point, that's where your 3D modeling could be a real benefit. Because what you'd wind up having to do is this is the part that typically doesn't work for the unlimited arm. It's just not long enough. So by the time you make it 155%, it's too big to fit around and it has other problems, right? The holes in the wrists get really huge. It has some of these problems. So what you might be able to do is with some of your engineers, they could go into like Fusion 360 or some of these other CAD tools, and they can actually just make the part longer, right? Just make it an extra 5 centimeters longer or something. Keep everything else exactly the same so that it fits the wrists on the Phoenix hand. Keep everything the same here so it still fits the bicep cuff. But if this is super long, then you know somebody might be able to just make it a little bit longer. You go to the Fab Lab, say print out this big part, and you're golden. I don't know how to do that. I can't do it. I've tried. I've tried it a couple of times now, and I just wind up messing up the whole model. I don't know how I even mess it up that bad, but I do.
Also, like, since mainly I've seen demo hands, but I've never seen someone using their own hand. So when it's not a demo hand and I don't have that like that thing to hold with my fingers, how are they controlling the movement of the wrist? Is it like, do they tie their hands to the
Yeah.
So
yeah, essentially, either using
so
Velcro right? So they either, they've got the hand here, and you either use Velcro in order to lock their hand into the device, and then you use Velcro down here to attach it here. So it has to be stable and secure here, and it has to be stable and secure here. And then when those two things are stable, when you bend your wrist, it makes all those strings, it makes this distance longer, which forces the fingers to close. And then when you do that, it lets the fingers open. Same thing with the elbow, right? When you do this distance gets longer, so it forces the fingers closed. You open it up, and the fingers open up again. So, so that's where they have to have enough hand, right? Like maybe 3, 4, 5 centimeters. They have to have enough of a hand to actually lock in, right? So if they don't have enough, then there's no way for you to lock this into the device, and so they can't get enough strength into it to actually close the fingers. And there again, we have ways of solving that problem, but it requires just a little bit of extra work on our part.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even have devices, for example, where let's say you don't have enough wrist, or let's say that maybe you're even amputated right at the wrist, but you don't want an entire arm device all the way here, right? What you can do is we actually have something called it's not the OD, I'd have to look it up, but basically it's a stationary hand device. So it doesn't have moving fingers. Instead, it looks a lot like this, but on the sides, it's almost got like Lego rails. And what you can do is you can build specialty devices that fit into those rails. And then, even though you can't move your wrist and you can't open and close fingers, you can still use the device for whatever you want, right? So they have different attachments. You can have an attachment to hold cards in case you want to play a card game. They have an attachment to hold a pencil. They have an attachment to hold a toothbrush so that you can, brush your teeth. They have an attachment for holding a trumpet or a violin bow, or all these different attachments. So I say that not necessarily because you'll use that. We've never done it. But just so that you know that if you run across these special cases, sometimes we have a solution that may not seem obvious, right? And so you can always reach out to me or other people in the community and kind of post a picture and say, God, is there anything we can do? And sometimes the answer is yes.
Yeah, like this makes me a bit more confident that even if, because I was a bit afraid that I need to find exactly a recipient with a wrist that's functional so that I could help. But apparently, even if it's not the regular case, there is a way we could help.
Yeah, I mean, to start, it would be great if you could find a classic traditional case, right? Perfect amount of palm, perfect functioning in the wrist, no residual fingers to get in the way, no thumb. That would be wonderful. Then you print out a simple Raptor Reloaded, you give it to them, they're happy, or a Phoenix and they're happy, and you move on, right? And put it up to Facebook, you get some TV time, and now you're getting lots of attention. But you're right. If somebody comes to you and it's your first case and it's not perfect, it might be a little bit harder. It might take a little more time. We might have to help. You might have to ask for some help outside of your chapter. But a lot of times we can still do things. I mean, there are definitely some cases like the one yesterday where there's just nothing we can do, right? I mean, if you have a full hand and it just doesn't move, we just don't really have anything to help you out. But a lot of times we do.
Yeah. So I think we should definitely be posting the page soon now, since maybe actually it could be a way to find the recipients themselves, because that's currently what's keeping us from not working right now. Is we need to find the first recipient, and I don't think actually watching the Facebook page would be of a disadvantage anymore to us, because I can see that the team we have right now is they're going to help whatever it is the case we have.
Okay. Yeah, I think posting up to Facebook, go out there and maybe troll some stuff off of Google Plus, maybe, you know, copy a photo off of the enablingthefuture.org website, right? I think you should be careful. Make sure you attribute those photos. So if you take one off of, enablingthefuture.org, maybe ask Jen, or at least put something up that says thanks to enablingthefuture.org, something like that. But you can go out there and borrow some of that material and use that to sort of get the Facebook page started, so that there's some material there. Maybe even point to a video out on YouTube. If you do a search for Enable on YouTube, or in fact, if you want, I'll even send you a link to my playlist. You can post a couple of these videos up there just so that people can see what it does and how it works, see a smiling child, that kind of a thing. And then once you say, hey, look at these cool videos, look at this amazing thing that we can do, and oh, by the way, we're here to do this in Egypt, just contact us, you're right. You will start to get some recipients.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll post this YouTube. This is just a playlist of some of the Enable videos that I've
Hello.
over the years. Hello?
Yeah. Oh, just to assure Omar that with the recipients, you will definitely get them. They will come and probably overwhelm you when you start.
Yeah.
So definitely, don't worry about the recipients now. Like Joe is saying, get out there, start something, and then they'll just keep coming because then they'll start finding you. So you probably have to hide.
Yeah, I mean, like in Nigeria, Umar, he actually is part of or he has a larger foundation or a larger organization called CyberLogic, and they do a lot of other types of things. So their broader goal is to use technology in order to help people. So the Enable thing is just one piece of that. So they do other things as well. And when Umar puts out like a communication, he's tied into all the government agencies. So every little regional office in every little small village gets the word and knows that he's having this event. And he says sometimes he shows up to his events and there's 100 people waiting in line. Now, not all of them want an Enable hand, right? Some of them might want a wheelchair, some of them might want other things, but that like his problem is not finding recipients. He has all the recipients that he could possibly want. His issue is maybe finding volunteers, right? And getting the help that he needs, or getting a little bit of money donated so that he can actually afford to bring in spare parts when his printer goes down, or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I missed some of your chat, but I think what I heard was that Omar is going to be using Fab Labs. Will that not affect the final cost of the arm? Because what this project is all about is getting prosthetics very cheap for recipients and maybe for free. So if you're gonna use labs, aren't we beating the purpose?
Somewhat.
So,
And I think it depends, right? So in the United States, for example, they can get one of these hands made at a local Fab Lab for $25, which isn't that much more expensive than it costs me to do it at my house when I pay for screws and Velcro and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it does kind of go contrary to the purpose, which is why I think that ultimately you'll want your own printers. But it's, hey, I mean, if you have 10 people at your university that are all willing to pitch in 300, pounds, and you've got 10 hands that you can print before you have to even worry about getting a printer. That's not to say, Ishmael, that he has to charge people for them, right? Just that he's going to have to somehow foot the bill for them.
Like in Egypt, like one of the cheapest hands is like 5,000 Egyptian pounds. So compared to what they could get, it's just like they're getting it for free anyways, and then it's not even available. Like what I heard from doctors is when someone's like when their hand get cut off or they get an accident or something like that, there aren't many places to go to, and the places that mainly like do it for cheap, like saying 1,000 Egyptian pounds or something, they don't offer they don't offer them a movable hand.
Just like a wooden hand or
It's
something.
become, yeah, like a pirate's thing in the like. So like that's why I think like even if it ends up costing us more than we thought it would, it's still like a big help to them because they don't even have it available.
Well, one thing I would suggest then is, you know, if cost starts to become an issue, or if you think cost will become an issue, then you know, one of the next steps that we can do is we can just get a donation page up for you guys, right? Or you can do it yourself. It's probably better for you to do it yourself, but you can go to like generosity.com. So I've got a Hungary fundraiser up there. Ishmael has one for Ghana. Umar has one for Nigeria. It's very simple. They take a small fee for processing the donations. But then on your Facebook page, for example, you can have a button link there and all of your email communications. You can have it in your footer. People click on it, they donate money, and you know, that way you don't have to pass the cost on to the recipient. The community could actually help offset those costs so that you go to the Fab Lab, but we're help pay for it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And you can do that before we even go to this e-NABLE outreach, you know, group to ask for printers and filament and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to make a quick note of that. Yeah, because I think on the enablingthefuture.org website, you know, there's a map up there now of all the chapters, and you're up there. And we have a place where you can put a link to a donation page so that people who are going to that website who are interested in working with people in Egypt can just directly donate. But I think right now I don't have anything in there for you. So if you send, you know, if you get something set up, and you can just set it up to your own personal bank account, right? Like you don't have to go out and set up a bank account for the whole chapter or anything, or however you want to do it. Really, you know, it becomes an ethical issue, right? So don't ask for donations and then go out and spend the money on yourself. But, you know, as long as you're actually using it, that's how I do it, right? When donation comes, it goes straight into my bank account. I'm very diligent about making sure that that money is marked and that it only ever gets spent on the chapter stuff. But I'm not going to go out and spend $5 a month to set up a bank account where I get donations of $10 a month. Like that doesn't make any sense. So you can.
Do you think it would be make it on like an American bank account, right?
Say again.
Having it in like on an American bank account instead of an Egyptian one, because I could do that on my student bank account in the States. Would that be better? Or like
I don't know, to be honest. I think that Ishmael set his up connected. Well, maybe he's back. Maybe he can answer. Ishmael, can you hear us? Hey, Ishmael, you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hey, so Omar just had a
Yes,
question. If
yeah,
you were to set up a donation page on that generosity site, did you wind up linking it to an American bank account, or did you connect it to a Ghanaian one?
I have a foreign currency account which I linked it to in Ghana, but I don't know, they are struggling to pay into the Ghana account. So like I said, I will have to find an American account, but they will pay to an Egyptian account if you have an account there. Because when you are filling the forms for the bank account, there's a place to choose whether it's a US bank account or a non-US bank account. Then you have to add the routing numbers and all that. So they will pay to other countries. Yes, they will.
Okay. And you may even find that there's maybe there's an Egyptian one, or you know, something that's regional that maybe makes more sense than generosity.com, right? I mean, there's tons of these crowdfunding sites out there, so just find one that's popular and that, you know, maybe makes it easy for people to donate, right? So I mean, that's where I say, like, if there was an Egyptian one, it might be easy because then maybe there's like an Egyptian version of PayPal. Like here in Hungary, there's a Hungarian version of all of these tools and systems where, you know, if you're asking a Hungarian to try and donate to an American site, it gets a little bit tricky, but if they can donate through their Hungarian bank, it's easier. So just, you know, whatever makes sense for your area.
And what I found out too is that generosity only takes credit cards, and people were not willing to put their credit card details online. So that's one of the things that was not good with generosity.
So there might even be a better option for you, Ishmael. I don't know. Maybe there's like a, I don't know. Are there like payment systems that are more popular in Africa, or does each country there kind of have their own thing going?
The most popular in Ghana is the mobile money payment system.
Okay.
So they pay directly to a mobile number, and that is easier for everyone because everyone has a phone. So for Ghana, that's what's easier. How to do that on this project, I've not really sat down to look at it, but maybe look going forward, that's something I have to look at.
Yeah. But I tell you what, Omar, if you do come across something that works better for you and that's what you decide to go for, definitely send me a link and then I'll get it posted up to the map page so that people can find it. But then I'd also love to know, because maybe that's the right solution for Ishmael, maybe that's the right solution for Umar, maybe that's the right solution for other chapters that we start in Africa.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm just quickly looking through our kind of agenda. It feels like we've covered most everything. What else did you guys want to talk about today?
Like, do you guys have any questions concerning like what we could do with like what we're talking about, since we have like engineers in our team now, if they could help you with designs or something? How do you wanna?
Well, I don't know. It kind of depends on how you guys want to get involved. I mean, like right now, for example, are you in this Google Plus group, this Google Plus community?
Yeah, I'm in the community.
Okay. I mean, you can kind of just troll through there, and if you keep your eyes open and you know kind of review it every once in a while, they frequently will post difficult, challenging cases up there that require some extra design work. And you can kind of just jump right in and say, hey, you know, we have people who are interested and ready to help you out with that. Another approach would be um, I can go through our own list of recipients and see if there are any cases that require some assistance right now. We have an example of that. There's a recipient named Waris in he's in Nigeria, I'm pretty sure, right, Ishmael? He's not yours. He's Umar's. Yeah. And anyway, he has a little bit of a unique hand, and so we've had to reach out and ask for help with that, and that would have been a perfect case to send your way to see if you could help it out with it. So we might have other cases like that.
I'll contact like the guy from the other university and the couple of guys I know that. I'll see what programs they're using and if it could be of help with modeling the arms, and I'll definitely send you an email about it.
Okay. Yeah, the two most popular tools that we use within e-NABLE are Blender, which is just for like meshes, right? So you're actually literally moving points and lines and vertices and all of that kind of stuff. And Fusion 360, which is, you know, kind of like a low-end CAD tool. So some models, like the Phoenix hand, we only have mesh models for them. So you have to use something like Blender or Mesh Mixer in order to make any changes to them. Other devices like the Raptor Reloaded, we have the actual CAD files for, so you can go into a tool like Fusion 360 or Autodesk and actually do your CAD magic on it. So those would be the two main tools. But you know, anybody who comes back and says I'm great at meshes or I'm great at CAD, I'm sure that they can help.
Okay.
Yeah, so just let me know, and then in the meantime, I'll be happy to go out and look and see if we have any special cases right now from any of our other chapters, and see if we can send those your way.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say the only other thing that I can think of off the top of my head from a design, you know, perspective is shoulder devices. And if you go for the moonshot, like you guys were just determined that they are going to make this thing that is going to, you know, change the world, it would be legs, right? Lower limb.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah,
maybe.
because
What's that?
like that person Muhammad, he was really interested in having a lower limb design, and even if it doesn't like go on with like the e-NABLE organization, we might be using us ourselves like in our chapters or something.
Yeah,
It actually
exactly.
proves to be working.
Lots and lots of chapters would use a lower limb device. My gut tells me that it's probably going to be like the ARM devices, where it's going to be complicated enough that only certain people will be able to print it, only certain people will be able to assemble it. It might require some specialty skills. You're probably going to be wanting to work with an orthopedist or you know, a physical therapist or a doctor or something like that. So it won't be as straightforward or easy, but for those teams that want to take on that challenge, that would be huge. I mean, it's absolutely huge, right? And there are people doing some parts of it, like the socket. I don't think anybody's figured out how to make the knee joint or the ankle joint that would work. There's lots of ideas out there. So if you guys decide you want to get involved with that, I bring it up more just to let you know that there are other people who are contemplating that as well. So I can connect you with them, and then you guys might be able to collaborate and hopefully come up with something.
Sure.
Yeah. The elbow or the shoulder power device would be another big one, because anybody who has that does not have an elbow right now, we don't really have a good device to help them out. So what we have is some people have built devices that use, say, like a harness that goes across the back. You can attach it here, make the whole arm and hand, and then when you move this shoulder, it closes the fingers over here. But nobody has really put together like how to print that, how to assemble it, where to get the parts. You know, like there's no help for it. You just happen to either have to be an engineer or a prosthetician or something in order to understand how it all works. Right now, so there's some work that could be done in order to try and package that up to make it easier for people in the community to actually deliver those devices. Because, you know, Ishmael, I think you can speak. I think we've got 3, 4, 5 of those in Ghana right now, and we've just kind of had to say, we've just kind of had to say that we can't help you.
Yeah. So they use like the movement of the right shoulder for the left fingers.
Yeah, because if you run a string, it's the very same idea. If you run a string along the back, and you can either attach it with like adhesive, you know, maybe like some strong medical tape, or what they tend to do is they actually build a harness that goes around this shoulder. So the harness stays stationary, right? It's fixed right here, and then as you do this, it lengthens the distance of that string, and so it accomplishes the exact same thing. You bend here, and it closes the fingers. You bend back, and it opens. You bend here, it closes. You bend back, it opens. And that's how. I mean, that's basically the way the devices work today. If you were to go to a clinic and you had one of these amputations, usually what you'll get is a harness with a cable, like almost like a bike cable, you know, like for the brakes, with a bike cable that runs down the length to a hook, right? And the cable, because the cable is rigid, right, because it's like a steel cable, it both pushes and pulls. So you don't need any elastic in order to open the fingers. You know, you move like this and it pulls the fingers closed. You push like this and it pushes the fingers open. So it's a very, very simple device, but you can get a lot of strength with it, you know, because you're talking about using your shoulder muscles now, and those are strong. So you can really torque on that thing and really get a tight grip. And if you're just using a simple hook like this that closes, say, this way and maybe this way, then you can do most everything you need to do, right? You can put on clothes, you can you can even tie shoes, you can do some pretty simple things. That's kind of what's out there. But like I say, nobody's packaged that up in a way to say, oh, you should print a Phoenix hand with the unlimited forearm and cuff connected to this one specialty part which snaps on here, and then you go get these 2 parts off of Amazon and you hook it all together following this video tutorial. Like, that's what we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you play this? We're here. Poor Ishmael is constantly having to jump on and off.
Yeah.
This is my daughter, Maggie. Say hi, Maggie.
Hello.
Hi, Maggie. Hi.
Are you coming in, Ian? Are you saying hi?
Yes.
All right. And there's my son, Ian.
Hello.
Hi.
This is my brother.
Yeah. You guys remember Ishmael from Ghana?
Who is Ismail?
Right there. You remember him, huh?
Okay.
Okay. Anyway. All right. Go back to your homework or your lunch or whatever it is you think you're doing. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So hopefully I've captured all of this. As far as the roles and everything, so, you know, how do you plan on including like Muhammad Ramadan and Awad and some of these other folks, since they're not part of this group from the university? Do you just want to reach out to them and
So like,
share the notes? Like, what do you want to do?
Like for the people who already contact me, I'm gonna send them emails giving them the notes and the forms and all the ways they could help us.
Okay.
And also I'm going to share these forms on our Facebook page probably. And like what I mean to tell these guys is like you're like, we're not going to be meeting in a certain university. We'll always have a meeting somewhere like in a restaurant or something so that everyone could join. And we'll have like, even if someone misses a meeting, we'll just send the minutes to like, could have that like a mail group or something and send the minutes to everyone. Because like people are always in exams or something, because mainly I feel like most of our volunteers are students now. So like personally, I think maybe Muhammad Ramadan couldn't be with us today because I think his university is still in like exams or something right now.
Okay.
So I always try to have like minutes posted, or I think definitely like sending minutes to the email or something like that. I'll see which way they prefer having it. And we'll always like, so we wouldn't be having like just board meetings. Our meetings would be always like everyone in the group. Yeah.
And I guess my big question is, how can I help? What else can I do to try and get things moving?
I think as far as like I'm not really sure since we haven't got a first like through that process. I'll definitely be like asking you for every single detail about that.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, because, you know, I mean, and as you go further along, you're probably going to come back, right? Like at some point, you're going to say, hey, Joe, you know, I've got like 50 people who are interested in these hands, but I need some way to organize them. And I can say, oh, okay, well, here's like our intake form that we usually use, right? Like this Google form. You know, if you want to translate it into your local language, you can post it up onto Facebook. And, you know, so you don't have to start out doing all of those things. But once you decide that you do want to do them, those are the kinds of things that I can help out with, right? Because we've got lots of chapters who have built lots of these forms and everything. So we can just find one that you can copy, translate, modify however you think is appropriate, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, I think we can offer a lot of help as you proceed. For now, since we're in this early stage, you know, what I would like to do, if it's okay, is I'd like to kind of keep an eye on things, you know, continue to offer my help in any way that I can. And then, you know, when you're ready to do it, you just give me the thumbs up and I'll be happy to sort of introduce you to that e-NABLE outreach group so that we can start the conversation about, you know, getting potentially a printer and supplies and all that kind of stuff sent out there. I mean, they're even talking about, you know, potentially modifying the printers in order to work off of car batteries, you know, so that if you have power issues. So they're prepared to kind of go the extra mile in order to help out the chapters and take into account whatever your local regional needs are and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're going to be a pretty powerful, you know, group to help out these chapters.
Also, like, I'll be working on the Facebook page today, so Would you rather me like sending you messages through Skype, or is email fine? If like I have a question concerning a video, if I could use, or something like that.
I would prefer either Google Hangout or thanks, Megs. Either Google Hangout or email. That would probably be quickest. I don't always have Skype open, so I may not get the message for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would probably be easiest. Yeah.
And so as far as just giving credit to whatever picture I have on the Facebook page, or a video, I might just share stuff from the Facebook pages of other e-NABLE communities, so I wouldn't just be copying it and posting it from my page. Just share it on the wall.
Yeah, most people, the only thing that they really yes, you know, most people what they want is attribution, right? So the whole community is kind of built around this public commons license, if you will. And if you're not familiar with the commons license, you can go to Thingiverse, and there's like links everywhere about what the commons license is and GPL, all this kind of stuff. But my understanding is that at the base of it, it really says non-commercial use. So this is something to consider if you were to ever want to charge your recipients, even to cover the cost of materials or anything. That puts you into kind of a tricky space, right? Because all of these designs, they're made available so long as you're not using it for any kind of commercial use, and so long as you just tell people who invented it, right? So if you want to use the unlimited arm, that's fine. You can't charge anybody. And if you're going to post a picture of somebody wearing an unlimited arm, the group in UK just asks that you put some text down there that says, you know, unlimited arm, you know, designed by Team Unlimited, or some. I have the text that they would like, but nobody's going to get upset just so long as you're being open and honest about where this stuff came from. So, you know, if you want to borrow some photos off of the enablingthefuture.org website, I would say maybe copy them and then email them to Jen Owen or myself, because Jen runs the site. And she's also one of those folks that she wants to kind of control those things, because she's a professional photographer. So when people start to use her photos, like it actually takes away money from her livelihood. So she at least wants to know ahead of time, like, what photos are you using? What are they being used for? And then she can kind of give you guidance like, oh, well, I've got this other photo that might be better, or whatever it is. But yeah, like I say, as long as you're not charging, you're not trying to generate money for anything other than donations. And as long as you're being open to say, like, I didn't invent this design, I didn't invent this hand, we're just using it, then most people are okay with it.
Sure.
And what I would say is, you know, I can give you permission to use anything off of our Hungarian website.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, any of the photos or anything that we have published up there, feel free to copy and use any of those. I don't know if it's culturally appropriate to show a whole bunch of, you know, white Hungarian kids receiving hands, but if it's helpful, it's all yours.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we good for today? You want to wrap up?
Yeah, I think we've covered almost everything.
Okay. I'll definitely let you know if I hear from any of the other folks. Like if I get any messages saying, hey, you know, I really tried to join your call, but it couldn't, and I want to know what's going on, I'll make sure to connect them directly to you. As far as I'm concerned, you know, from this day forward, you're kind of my point of contact with the Egypt chapter. So anything that seems relevant, I'll just forward on to you, and you can tell me if it's, you know, appropriate or whether you're interested or whatever.
Definitely. Sure.
Cool. Okay. Then, like I say, don't hesitate to let me know if you have any other questions or if I can help out in any way.
Sure.
Good luck. Okay. It's exciting.
Good luck. Thank you.
All right. Bye, Omar.
Bye.